fact that
At the inception of the Buhari administration, some ministries were merged like the Power, Works and Housing sector, and the man saddled with the responsibility of overseeing the ministry is Babatunde Fashola, the former governor of Lagos State. The minister hit the ground running by reeling out the plans that the government had to revive the Power, Works and Housing sectors. To start his work, the minister began an inspection tour to ascertain areas that need attention in the sectors and how the government plans to deal with the problems and bring joy to the millions of Nigerians seeking the dividends of democracy. Welcome to the main edition of From Lagos to Maiduguri, Power, Works and Housing Agenda, the program that brings you the highlights of activities in these sectors. I am Sarah Yiku. On this edition of the program, we will look at some of those projects in the southeast and south-south that have so far been inspected by the minister. Let me take you through Abia and Ebonyi states, where the minister inspected highway projects in the southeast zone. Contractors were not spared as the minister sought to know why some of the projects are still not completed.
Pleasantries exchanged as the minister got to Abia State to begin the inspection tour of the federal highway project in the region. Met by the governor, Okeze Ikpazu, the entourage sets out. The long drive took the pair to one of the roads under construction where the minister made some inquiries about the scope of work. The contractor took some time to explain the level of work done so far and the time of completion.
Here was completely pushed. Mother Cat came here last year and approached the whole of this place. Where we are working now, the filling you see here is about 1.7, 1.8 meters back. What you saw up there is what was here just last 3 weeks, but we are here now. About 3 weeks ago we started here, and now we are on the other track, and before the end of the month, both the asphalt, everything will be completed here.
Our people here know now that they've not been abandoned, and that is a ray of hope. And as you make the promise before God, smaller, so much smaller than God, I think you keep your promise.
The minister assured the contractor and the community that the National Assembly was giving every necessary financial support for the people of the community to realize the completion of the road.
We are getting a lot of cooperation from the legislators in Parliament, and I think the people of this community must first thank their legislators. They've done a lot of work in even giving us the flexibility to be able to pay this man, even though it wasn't in the line budget. And it's that flexibility we're asking for more.
A drive down to another community revealed that asphalt has been distributed on the road, and the minister listened to the supervisor as he described the scope of work and how much far they can go.
We have attained about 50% completion of the project. Asphalt work has gone 5 kilometers. Overall work on the road is covering 7 kilometers. It means after that 5 kilometers, we have 2 kilometers of work going on. Drainages are complete, stone base is going on, and we are hoping that this contractor will be able to achieve 3 more kilometers, making a total of 8 kilometers before the beginning of the rain.
More inspection in another community made it quite a busy day for the minister, who again was told about the level of work going on and how it will benefit the people of the community economically. This is the Ohafia-Osu Road between Abia and Ebonyi states.
There's a lot of activity along this road. In fact, there's a mobile restaurant that goes to supply the workers food at the operational points in every sector. So the travel time on this road has reduced considerably. The vehicle operation cost has reduced considerably. And this is in an agrarian area. People cannot bring their foodstuffs and take it to the state capital.
The Umuahia-Arochukwu Road also is one of the major roads in the region under construction, where the minister told the contractor about a synergy between government and his company.
We want to know those who have a stake, who are ready to commit and invest. Because really, once we give you mobilization, we expect that from there you should also invest your money in the expectation that you will be paid.
This inspection has so many yielding rewarding results as many of the roads are now passable.
Cross River State will be our next port of call on this program as the minister moved around to scrutinize Ugepa-Lacey Road Rehabilitation Project as part of his South-South tour.
The people of Northern Cross River, no doubt, will have so much joy at the minister's visit as he visited the Ugepa-Lacey Rehabilitation Project. This is one among the many roads in the state that are seriously in need of rehabilitation. The region in the state is a gateway to the northern part of the country through Benue State. The scope of work was told to the minister, who had an interaction with the contractor.
Some areas are locked down for 4 or 5 days, and we have to go and intervene in those areas with our materials, our equipment, and we do not have a source to replenish those materials. However, the job is not unsurmountable. We have consistently tried to maintain a presence on site, a serious presence on site. We are committed to complete this job, and we are committed to show that there are serious indigenous contractors that can deliver the kind of quality job that I know you are known for, sir.
The potholes on the road tells the hazard motorists have to go through, and the minister highlighted some of the strategic economic positions of Cross River State to the nation.
The Calabar-Ogoja Ikom Road, this is the road that you have featured extensively, especially during the rainy season. You heard from the contractors when it was awarded. You award a road of almost 200 kilometers and you give the contractor 45 million naira in January 2015. That's why the pain has endured. I think what has changed is that in spite of the tough economic times, this administration is able to keep that contractor there now paying some money, and we will pay more.
The region in particular is volatile in terms of security, and the minister took time out to reiterate government's desire to ensure that peace pervades in the area.
The price of crude oil has now gone up from 40-something to 50-something. We made all the effort through OPEC. Now, we can't benefit from it. It doesn't make sense. So, if we have peace, that will come. What will follow that is more money. That means that teachers can be paid, workers can be paid.
The government of Cross River State viewed the minister's visit as a blessing worth celebrating.
The coming of the Minister for Power, Works and Housing is an answered prayer for us. And so our situation has been very precarious, especially where we fall in a rainforest where we have about 10 to 11 months of continual rainfall. Is where you have a Cross River. Rains have started falling since January. If you are here, you will know. And so we have rains continuously. Our subsoil too do not give credence or support to the performance of roads in perpetuity. So we have a situation where our roads have been very, very bad. And you can attest to that. You can see we have a lot of heavy trucks plying our roads, activity of quarries, activity of cement hauling companies, activity of petrol hauling companies, and all that. That does not allow the roads to last. And particularly, if you recall, that these roads were constructed in the 70s, these federal roads, and they don't take into consideration the design for heavy loads as it is now. And the roads, the age of the roads has not also given credence to what it is.
A big sigh of relief, definitely. It will be once those projects are completed and the government is determined to bring smiles on the faces of those living and plying the roads in the region.
Bayelsa State was also on the list of the minister's inspection tour. The state is one of the South states that have suffered some form of degradation resulting from the activities of the Niger Delta agitators. Both being part of the federal government's planned road rehabilitation project, Minister Fashola had an inspection to that area on his agenda.
It is the turn of Bayelsa State, and Minister Fashola and his entourage drove the long distance to their first port of call, where the contractor explained to the minister that some of the challenges that have stalled the completion of the project since 2009.
This project started in 2009, and unfortunately, because of inadequate budget, we could not finish it on time, and it's not fair for the contractor. As you see, this We've done here 2 layers of surface dressing. Now if you look at it, you can see a lot of sand. So we should hand over the stretch because we don't know, hopefully, we don't know this project when it will finish if there is no enough budget. But we believe with you, sir, and with the achievement you've done in Lagos City, we believe that with your power, we can have enough budget for this project to finish it.
Parts of the road have indeed been completed. From there, the minister paid a visit to the state governor, Siraki Dixon, in Government House, Yenegua. Although the inspection was supposed to be for road projects, the minister, however, took time out to explain some effort government is making towards improving power supply.
The presence of the federal government here has not been as impactful in terms of infrastructure as it could have been over the years, but we intend to change that. But we can only change it by partnership, by peace, by collaboration across the Delta, not just in Bayelsa. So not only do the governor and I have our work cut out for us, the governor and his colleagues in the South too must step up now and change the conversation around this place. This place must really achieve all of its potential. It can create employment for substantial parts of Nigeria. Harvesting its gas, harvesting its byproducts from gas, creating industries, creating opportunities, and also creating really life-defining infrastructure, visits, connection to the sea. These are places where you can do a lot of tourism. The possibilities are endless.
The advice is indeed for the governors of the region to join forces and, like the minister said, change the narrative of the area.
Let's pull the brakes here, and when we come back, we'll switch gears into another of the tripartite sector. Stay with us. Welcome back. Nigeria has had power issues for years, and the current administration is taking the bull by the horn to address some of these challenges adhering. In this next report, we will look at the government's plan to revive the sector with a visit to the Gurara power plant in Kaduna State.
The Gurara Dam is an expanse of lake water and capable of generating power through hydro means, seeing the economic advantages it would be to the country. Having to handle 3 ministries combined, power being one of them, the minister is saddled with the responsibility of telling Nigerians how power supply will be improved. To do that, he undertook a tour of the Gurara power plant. Power is a priority, but having to get it from one source, hitherto gas, has overstretched the resources and equipment, and with hydropower and other sources of energy can be conversed. It may be a good way forward, as many of the hydropower plants are near completion.
What you must understand is that earlier in the life of this administration, we had agitations for power from other sources beyond gas. Why is Nigeria not using hydropower? Those were the questions I was asked in the beginning. Why is Nigeria not using solar power? Why is Nigeria not using wind power? But you've seen that your country is developing wind power in Katsina, is developing hydropower here in Kaduna, the Gurara power which we are. It's developing hydropower in Kashimbila where we went yesterday. We've been to Jeba, we've been to Kainji together, we've been to Shiroro, and slowly the energy mix is coming together.
The Gurara power plant has been near completion for 2 years now, and the minister explains why it is still in that state.
The last mile of this project now is a part you asked me, why should we continue with this? The reason we should continue with it is that you've seen 3 turbines inside. Each one has 10 megawatts of power to generate. So that's 30. Add to 40 yesterday, add to 215 in Kaduna, and so on and so forth. It brings you back to where we started this journey from. Incremental power everywhere that we can get it. So the reason why we must complete it is that it gives us 30 megawatts of incremental energy to add to the energy that is not enough.
Nigerians can now go to sleep knowing that in no distant time, power outages will be a thing of the past, as government's commitment in that direction can be said to be encouraging.
The people of Kaduna State no doubt will get a full dose of power supply once the Kaduna power plant is done. This, according to the minister, will not be far from now, as he was satisfied with the work so far done with the plant. For him and the governor, the plant will return the state to its lost industrial glory, as power supply will help bring back to life the comatose textile industry, which had been the state's economical powerhouse.
Kaduna State is the capital of the old northern region and home to the Kaduna Power Plant. And in government's bid to ensure the whole country is powered up, the Kaduna Power Plant was also listed for rehabilitation. On one of his inspections to the power project, the minister took a trip to Kaduna to see for himself work done so far. The management of the plant gave an insight into where the plant is now.
That's supposed to be here is already built, pre-commissioned, but because we still have to pay some balance of money to the vendor, OEM, so that we can bring it in.
Kaduna State Governor Malam El-Rufai, who hosted the minister, also joined him on the tour and was determined to find out some hindering blocks to its operation in full capacity, while explaining his government's collaborative efforts with the federal government.
We are exploring the feasibility of taking the entire 30 megawatts from Gorara to our industrial area in Maiduguri. So we would prefer that it shouldn't be fed into the PCM, but maybe diverted to Kakuri and embedded there. Because we are working with the federal government to revive textiles. And one of the key issues that led to the death of 12 textile plants is power. So we thought if we can have that 30 megawatts just for them from Gorara, then we know that there's a reasonable source of reliable electricity.
The plant is relatively ready, as some of the turbines are good to go, and Minister Fashola expressed satisfaction.
Now, for my own information, what is the combustion system you have in each of the turbines? Are they multi-user?
They are dual phase.
That's what
you can use both
because in some instances in the past, you will find out that when you now want to change, you have to buy a conversion kit, you have to break down the combustion system. So that will happen without
Yes, and that's in the control system.
The plant indeed would have been fully operational by now, but lack of funds stopped the contractors, and government has concluded all plans to have the plant running as soon, and for the state government is another avenue to bring back the textile industry in Kaduna.
My take is that we just need to work harder and finish this project, and you heard the reasons for the delay. Contractors haven't been paid since 2014, while the nation was running a budget ostensibly. So those are issues first that the Ministry of Power, Works and Housing has tackled. So there are now provisions for them in this year's budget, and so it may become unnecessary to put pressure on Kaduna to go and borrow money to do what the federal government should have done years ago.
This project is very, very central to the survival of Kaduna State, the creation of jobs in Kaduna State, and the reduction of youth restiveness in the state. As the minister pointed out, once upon a time Kaduna had the largest concentration of textiles in Nigeria, employing over 35,000 people and catering for nearly 500,000 families. The collapse of our textile industry led to religious crisis in this state, an ethnic crisis, and we are determined under President Buhari's government to work with all stakeholders to bring this back.
Another avenue not just to earn money for the state and the federal government, but to create jobs, which is one major agenda of the Buhari administration.
Still in the bid to find a lasting solution to the power supply in the country, Minister Fashola has also inspected the Jebba power plant in Niger State. Now, this is one of the oldest power plants in Nigeria, and it served most parts of the north-central region during its heydays.
The Jebba power plant can be considered among the oldest plants in the country, but for some reason of neglect, the plant finds itself falling behind in its required desire to supply power to Nigerians. So as the government's plan to enhance more power supply from there, Fashola visited the place. To achieve this, government sought partnership through concessioning and the benevolence of the Japanese government, and this partnership has further helped in enhancing job creation.
It took a Japanese international cooperation agency to provide the other part of the money. But all of you are witnesses today to monies being unraveled that should have come here, that did not come here.
The country is passing through some economic difficulties, but government does not want to look at that as a hindering factor to overcoming the challenges of giving Nigerians what they deserve.
There will be challenges, as we have seen. Equipment have aged. They need to be replaced. It is happening at a time when our resources have diminished. But I am sure that if our resolve remains as it is, there will be no challenge that we cannot overcome.
There are those who believe in the country called Nigeria enough to continue investing in it, and the minister did not fail to appreciate all of them whom he sees as partners in progress.
All I wish to say is that for investors like Mainstream and other concessionaires, as long as they play by the rules, they deserve our support. They have chosen to invest in the place we call home. There are others who have taken their money out. And if the likes of Mainstream did not invest, the very loud voices that I hear here, the workers in this place will have no work.
The gap in power supply cannot be overemphasized, judging where it would have been since 1985 when the Jeba plant was constructed.
Almost 100 megawatts of power can be restored back onto the grid from a generating plant that has run for about 30 years without prerequisite overhaul, when at the time of commissioning in 1985, it should have been overhauled once every 6 years.
The pains will come, but the joy of having adequate power supply will shut those pains down. And for Jeba, it is on, and it is a thing that the private and public sectors will like, as their activities will grow again in the region.
Finally on the program, we see the minister inspecting some uncompleted housing projects. The federal government housing program is indeed on course, and Minister Fashola has been keeping an eye on the progress of the project. To this end, he visited Taraba State to inspect some of the projects. The visit was not only to inspect, but also to tell the artisans that this is one way the federal government intends to help them provide for their families.
Shelter is an all-important need of any human being, and government's desire to satisfy that very basic need cannot be compromised. As part of his purview, Minister Fashola has been inspecting houses under the National Housing Program in some states, and in Taraba State, the minister emphasized government's desire to also create jobs through the housing program.
State construction works. At every state, we have to inspect and ensure before the I see.
The minister was shown round the two-bedroom semi-detached bungalows and also found time to meet and interact with some of the workers.
Carpenter, when did you start work here?
1 week. 1 week, 7 days.
You like the work? Which work was it doing before this work started? Mr. Carpenter. But this one is good now. You put money in your pocket?
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
Okay, President Buhari said I should greet you, all of you working here. He said thank you, well done, for building your country.
Minister Fashola explained that the intention of government is not only to provide shelter for Nigerians, but also provide an avenue for many unskilled workers to provide food for their families.
And this is really all what it's about. The most vulnerable members of our society. This is what housing does. It energizes the industry, it energizes employment. So you will see trucks moving in, you will see sand moving in, you will see carpenters, you will see bricklayers, you will see welders, you will see food vendors. And this is what we are igniting across the whole country. This is why the president says this budget is a budget of recovery and growth. Getting people back to work, those who have lost their work, putting money in their pockets and restoring their dignity, so that every morning they can tell their wives and their husbands that we are going to work.
It is obvious that government is doing all it can to ensure that Nigerians are comfortable, and with a housing program like this being put in place across the country, more Nigerians can now smile at being called landlords.
That's the size of our program this week. I am sure that it is evident to Nigerians that the government is indeed doing all it can to make life worth living in the country. But you can keep the conversation going on any of our social media platforms displayed on your screen. Until next time, keep praying for our dear country, Nigeria. I am Sarah Yeku.
We are going to work to ensure that better the road will